Let Go. How to Find Hope When Life Feels Impossible, by Kaleem H.G. Mura and produced by the Oryx. You didn't stumble here by accident. Maybe you're here because everything in you feels broken. Maybe it's heartbreak, grief, or the relentless ache of being stuck in a life that no longer feels like yours. Maybe you've told yourself over and over that you're done, that you've had enough, and yet somehow you press play. And that means everything. Because even if you don't believe it right now, the fact that you're still here, still breathing, still seeking, means there's a spark inside you that hasn't gone out. You may not feel it, but it's there, waiting for you to notice it again. I'm not going to lie to you. I know how dark it can get. I know what it feels like when you're hanging on by a thread, when the weight of everything threatens to crush you, and when hope feels like a cruel joke. But I also know this: when life takes everything away, it leaves you with something far more powerful than the things you've lost. It leaves you with the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are underneath all the noise, all the expectations, all the stories you've been told about who you're supposed to be. And that truth, it's the beginning of something extraordinary. Let's start here. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to fix yourself. And you sure as hell don't need to fake being okay. The only thing you need to do right now is let go. Let go of the lie that you have to keep it all together. Let go of the idea that you're supposed to have all the answers. Let go of the shame, the guilt, and the stories in your head that tell you you're not enough. Because you are enough, exactly as you are, in this moment, even in your pain, even in your despair. You don't need to prove it. You don't need to earn it. You already are. I know you're tired. I know it feels impossible to believe there's anything left for you on the other side of this moment. But here's the thing. This isn't the end. This is the moment where everything changes. Not because you fight harder or try to claw your way out of the darkness, but because you stop fighting altogether. Because you surrender to the truth that life is bigger, wilder, and more unpredictable than you've ever allowed yourself to believe. This isn't about giving up. It's about giving in, letting the wave carry you instead of trying to fight the current. It's about discovering that when you let go of control, the universe shows up for you in ways you never expected. You're here because deep down, some part of you still wants to believe there's something worth living for. And there is. You don't have to see it yet. You don't have to know what it looks like. You just have to trust that it's there, waiting for you to let it in. This audiobook isn't going to give you a step-by-step plan. Life doesn't work that way. What I'm offering you is something better, the permission to stop trying so hard and start trusting yourself again, to stop clinging to what you thought your life should be and open yourself to what it can become. You're not alone in this. I'm here, walking this path with you. And together, we're going to find the spark that will carry you forward. Not because you need fixing, but because you're ready to let go of the things that were never meant to hold you in the first place. This moment isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of something you can't even imagine yet. Let's step into it together.
Welcome to the Oryx, a literary collective of like-minded thinkers. Immerse yourself in our powerful audiobooks and thought-provoking insights designed to elevate your mind and transform your life. Subscribe, like, and hit that bell for a steady dose of inspiration to help you embrace the power of the universe within you. And feel free to drop a comment below and share this video with someone who needs that spark. So, are you ready to awaken your true potential? Let's dive in and start your journey.
Chapter 1. The moment you stop fighting. When your world falls apart, everything inside you screams to fight back. It's instinct, survival. The idea that if you just push harder, try longer, or grit your teeth enough, the pieces will come together again. But what if they're not meant to? What if the collapse isn't a punishment, but a necessary unraveling? There's a moment when exhaustion sets in. Not just physical exhaustion, but the deep, bone-level kind that comes from fighting something bigger than yourself. This isn't weakness, it's your body and soul telling you it's time to stop. Because the more you fight, the more you resist, the further you drift from what life is trying to show you. Let's start with a truth that's hard to swallow. Control is a myth. The ancient Taoists understood this when they observed the rhythms of nature. A river doesn't fight the rocks in its path. It flows around them. The seasons don't argue with the sun. They shift in harmony with it. This is the essence of Wu Wei, effortless action, a state of flow where you work with life, not against it. But humans, we're obsessed with control. We try to dictate everything: our careers, relationships, outcomes, even our emotions. And when life refuses to obey, we panic. Why? Because control gives us the illusion of safety. It's our way of pretending we're bigger than the forces shaping us. The Stoics had a phrase for this: Amor fati, love of fate. It's not about resigning yourself to suffering, but learning to embrace what life throws at you as part of the greater whole. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." To the Stoics, surrender wasn't giving up. It was aligning yourself with the nature of existence. Modern psychology backs this up. Studies on emotional suppression show that the more you try to control or avoid negative feelings, the stronger they become. This is known as the ironic process theory. By trying not to think about something, you end up obsessing over it. When you fight your pain, be it grief, heartbreak, or despair, you feed it. Consider grief. Elizabeth Kübler-Ross, in her groundbreaking work on the 5 stages of grief, noted that denial and anger are often the first reactions to loss. But true healing doesn't begin until you reach acceptance. And acceptance isn't passive. It's active. It's the moment you stop resisting reality and start engaging with it as it is. The idea of surrender has deep roots in esoteric philosophy. The Bhagavad Gita, one of Hinduism's foundational texts, describes surrender not as a loss, but as union with the divine flow of existence. Krishna tells Arjuna, "Abandon all attachment to the results of action and attain supreme peace." It's a call to release the ego's grip on outcomes and trust in something greater. In Buddhism, surrender manifests as the practice of mindfulness. By fully inhabiting the present moment without judgment, you let go of the need to control the past or future. As Zen master Shunryu Suzuki put it, let things go as they will, and do not try to speed them up. Letting go is terrifying. It feels like stepping off a cliff without a safety net. But consider this: the only reason it feels scary is because you're still clinging to the illusion that you can hold everything together. When you let go, you're not falling. You're freeing yourself from the weight of things that were never yours to carry. Philosopher Alan Watts compared life to water held in your hands. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips through your fingers. The only way to hold it is with an open hand. That's the paradox. To keep life, you must release it. When you stop fighting, you don't give up. You create space. Space to breathe. Space to feel. Space to hear what life has been trying to tell you. Surrender is not the end of the battle. It's the beginning of clarity. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. And it's not about losing control. It's about realizing you never had it to begin with. As the Tao Te Ching teaches, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Let go of the fight, see what remains. That's where your truth begins. Chapter 2. Pain is the doorway. Pain feels like the enemy. It cuts, it burns, it drowns, and when it's at its worst, it convinces you that it will never end. But what if pain isn't here to destroy you? What if it's here to guide you? The great spiritual traditions teach that pain isn't something to run from, it's something to walk through. In the words of Rumi, the wound is the place where the light enters you. But in a world that worships comfort and quick fixes, pain gets treated like a mistake, something to numb, to escape, to bury. What no one tells you is that pain doesn't leave until it teaches you what you need to know. Imagine pain not as a punishment, but as a signal. When your body aches, it's trying to alert you to a problem that needs attention. Emotional pain works the same way. Anxiety, heartbreak, grief, they're not random. They're your soul's way of saying, something needs to change. The Stoics were relentless in their exploration of pain as a teacher. Epictetus, a man who lived his life as a slave before becoming one of history's most influential philosophers, said this: "Difficulties are things that show a person what they are. Pain strips away the illusions we hide behind, our masks, our distractions, and forces us to confront what's real." But here's the twist. Pain isn't just about revealing truth. It's about transformation. In alchemy, there's a concept called nigredo, the blackening. It's the first stage of transformation, where everything breaks down into its rawest form. This is pain's purpose, to dismantle the old so the new can emerge. Carl Jung, who drew heavily from alchemical principles, called this process the dark night of the soul. He believed that suffering was essential for growth because it forces us to confront the parts of ourselves we'd rather ignore. Think about it. The times you've grown the most weren't when life was easy. Growth comes from the ashes, not the sunshine. The Buddhists understood this too. In the Four Noble Truths, they teach that suffering is inevitable, but also the key to enlightenment. Why? Because when you stop running from pain, you start to understand its wisdom. The instinct to escape pain is as old as humanity itself. But here's the problem. What you avoid, you give power to. Psychologists call this experiential avoidance. The more you suppress or deny your emotions, the stronger they become. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It works for a while, but eventually it erupts back to the surface. Jung warned, what you resist persists. The pain you avoid today will find you tomorrow. But the pain you face, that's the pain that begins to heal. The ancient Taoists believed in the transformative power of stillness. Instead of running from discomfort, they taught the practice of sitting with it. Lao Tzu wrote, "Mud settles when it is still. The way is clear when you let it be." This isn't about wallowing. It's about creating space for your pain to speak. In modern mindfulness practices, this is called radical acceptance. Tara Brach, a leading voice in this field, describes it as the willingness to be with life exactly as it is. Not as you wish it to be, not as you fear it to be, but as it truly is. Radical acceptance doesn't mean you like the pain or approve of what caused it. It means you stop fighting reality. And in that surrender, healing begins. Here's the paradox. The more you let yourself feel pain, the less it controls you. Neuroscience supports this. Research shows that naming your emotions, actually sitting with, and identifying them, reduces their intensity. This practice, known as affect labeling, is like turning the lights on in a dark room. The monsters aren't as scary when you can see them clearly. The Sufi mystics believed that pain was the key to divine love. They called it breaking the shell of your understanding. It's in the cracking open that we discover who we really are. The goal isn't to glorify pain or to wish for it. It's to understand that pain, as brutal as it is, holds something sacred. It's a doorway, not the kind you choose to walk through, but the kind you must if you want to reach the other side. On the other side of pain is clarity. On the other side of pain is resilience. On the other side of pain is the truth of who you are, stronger, softer, and more whole than you were before. Pain doesn't stay forever. It moves, it shifts, it transforms. The only way out is through. The only way forward is to feel it. Let it teach you. Then let it go. Chapter 3. When it's time to walk away. There's a truth we rarely talk about. Sometimes the only way to save yourself is to leave. Leave the relationship that feels more like a battle than a partnership. Leave the job that drains you day after day. Leave the city where you feel like a stranger in your own life. Walking away isn't failure, it's freedom. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that where you are is no longer where you're meant to be. But how do you know it's time? When you are out of alignment with your soul's energy, it shows up in subtle ways at first. A restless feeling in the pit of your stomach. A sigh you can't quite explain. A heaviness in your chest that no amount of distraction can lift. These signals are your soul's alarm system, warning you that something isn't right. But if you ignore them long enough, the alarms get louder. You feel trapped, disconnected, suffocated by the very life you thought you wanted. This isn't a failure on your part, it's life calling you to change. The ancient Taoists understood this. They believed that life flows like a river, always moving toward greater harmony. When we resist that flow, when we cling to relationships, jobs, or situations that no longer serve us, we create turbulence in our lives. The river doesn't stop flowing, it just becomes harder to navigate. Ask yourself, is the pain of staying greater than the fear of leaving? If the answer is yes, it's time to take a hard look at your situation. In relationships, love should expand you, not shrink you. If your relationship feels like a constant struggle for validation, respect, or connection, it's not love. It's survival. And survival isn't a foundation for growth. In work, your job is where you spend most of your waking hours. If it leaves you drained, uninspired, and questioning your purpose, it's not just a job, it's a prison. In place, cities and environments carry energy. If your surroundings feel heavy, stagnant, or hostile, it might be time to find a place that resonates with your soul's rhythm. The Stoics remind us to focus only on what we can control. You can't change people who don't want to grow, fix systems that are inherently broken, or force a place to feel like home when it never will. But you can choose to walk away. There are practical steps to let go. 1. Check your intuition. Your mind will argue with you. It will list reasons to stay: the time you've invested, the fear of starting over, the comfort of the familiar. But your intuition is quieter. It whispers. It nudges. Pay attention to how your body reacts when you think about leaving. If the idea brings a sense of relief, that's your sign. 2. Give yourself permission to want more. We often stay because we think leaving's selfish or ungrateful, but wanting more from life isn't selfish. It's your soul's way of guiding you toward its true purpose. You're not betraying anyone by choosing yourself. 3. Orita. Start small, then take the leap. If leaving feels overwhelming, start with micro moves. If it's your job, research new opportunities or network with people in fields that excite you. If it's your relationship, set boundaries or take a temporary break to assess your feelings. And if it's your environment, explore other places, travel, visit friends, or immerse yourself in new surroundings. 4. Trust the timing. The Tao Te Ching teaches us to act in harmony with life's flow. This doesn't mean waiting forever for the perfect moment. There's no such thing. It means trusting that when you take the first step, the universe will meet you halfway. The moment you walk away, space opens up. At first, it might feel empty, even terrifying. But that space is where new opportunities, connections, and energies come in. Think of it like clearing out a cluttered room. The process of letting go is messy and uncomfortable. But once the space is empty, it's full of potential. That's when synchronicities happen. That's when the universe starts to align with your courage. Walking away isn't about running from your problems. It's about running toward your truth. You're not abandoning people or responsibilities. You're shedding what no longer fits so you can step into who you're meant to be. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is permission to leave, to let go of the old, the familiar, the safe, and trust that the life waiting for you is worth the leap. And it always is. Chapter 4. Breaking the chains of control. It's the lie we cling to when life feels too chaotic to bear. The belief that if we just try harder, plan better, or hold on tighter, we can bend the world to our will. But here's the truth no one likes to admit. Control is an illusion. Everything you think you're controlling, your relationships, your career, even your emotions, could slip through your fingers at any moment. And the tighter you cling, the more life resists. The harder you try to dominate the flow, the more you exhaust yourself fighting an unwinnable battle. At its core, the need for control is about fear. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of failure. Fear of pain. Control is how we try to protect ourselves from the unpredictable, the uncomfortable, and the unknown. It's a shield we put up against life. But shields are heavy, and they don't actually keep life's storms from coming. They just make it harder for us to move through them. Psychologists describe this as control fallacy, the mistaken belief that our happiness or suffering hinges entirely on our ability to control our environment or the people around us. It's a lie we tell ourselves to feel safe, but in reality, control doesn't bring safety. It brings anxiety, rigidity, and burnout. Control often shows up as perfectionism, the belief that if you can just do everything right, nothing will go wrong. But perfectionism isn't about high standards. It's about fear of failure. Brené Brown calls perfectionism a 20-ton shield that we lug around, thinking it will protect us. But what it really does is keep us from being seen, from taking risks, and from living fully. Let's be honest, life doesn't care about your perfect plans. The universe moves in ways we can't predict. And when you demand perfection from yourself, you close yourself off from the messiness, the unpredictability, and the magic of being human. The Tao Te Ching offers an antidote to our obsession with control: Wu Wei, or effortless action. It's the idea that the best way to navigate life isn't through force, but through flow. Imagine a river. When it encounters a rock, it doesn't try to push the rock out of the way. It moves around it, finding the path of least resistance. This isn't passivity, it's wisdom. It's knowing that fighting the current wastes energy and that surrendering to the flow allows you to move forward with ease. In your own life, this might mean letting go of rigid expectations and being open to what comes. It's about trusting the process, even when you can't see the outcome. Identify what you're clinging to. Take a moment to reflect. What are you trying to control right now? Is it a relationship, a career goal, your emotions? Write it down. Often just naming what you're clinging to can help loosen its grip on you. 2. Ask yourself what's truly in my control. The Stoics were big on this. Epictetus taught that we should focus only on what we can control: our actions, our choices, and our mindset. Everything else? Out of your hands. This is liberating once you accept it. 3. Practice letting go in small ways. Start with something low stakes. For example, let a friend choose where you go to dinner. Skip your usual workout routine and take a walk instead. These small acts of surrender train your brain to release the need for constant control. 4. Use mindfulness to stay present. Control is rooted in fear of the future. Mindfulness anchors you in the present, where life is happening right now. Try meditation, deep breathing, or simply paying attention to your surroundings without judgment. 5. Trust the universe's timing. Sometimes what feels like a loss of control is actually the universe rerouting you to something better. The Taoist principle of trusting the way teaches us to have faith in life's unfolding, even when it doesn't match our plans. When you stop trying to control everything, you free yourself to actually live. You stop wasting energy on the impossible and start noticing the beauty, opportunities, and connections that were there all along. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up. It means stepping into flow. It means trusting that life knows what it's doing, even when you don't. As Alan Watts once said, "You are not a puppet being pushed around by life. You are the entire universe, expressing itself as you." When you release the chains of control, you allow the universe to move through you, and that's where the magic happens. Life isn't asking you to control it, it's asking you to trust it. So let go, see where it takes you. Chapter 5. Hope in the unknown. There's a moment when you've thought it all through, exhausted every option, and still the weight won't lift. You've run every scenario, asked every question, and yet here you are, staring into the void, wondering if there's any point at all. Let me say this as clearly as I can. I know it feels like there's no way forward, but what if the way forward isn't something you can see right now? What if hope isn't a light at the end of the tunnel? It's the quiet breath you take in the dark? Hope isn't always grand. It's not always fireworks or a big revelation. Sometimes it's a stubborn ember, refusing to go out, even when everything around it says it should. We fear the unknown because it strips us of certainty. And without certainty, we feel powerless. But here's the thing. Certainty isn't the comfort we think it is. It's a cage. It locks you into what you know, what you've seen, and what you think is possible. The unknown, terrifying as it is the opposite. It's infinite. It's possibility. It's every potential version of your life waiting to unfold. Buddhist philosophy teaches that suffering comes from clinging to what we think we need, what we think we've lost, or what we think we should have by now. The unknown asks us to let go of all that. It demands that we sit with the void and trust that something new will emerge. And yes, that's hard. It's brutal. But it's also the only way forward. The mystics of every tradition have written about the void, not as an ending, but as a beginning. The Sufi poet Rumi described it as the silence before the first word. In Taoism, the void is the space where all creation begins. Even science backs this up. The universe itself was born out of nothing. Right now it feels like your life is nothing, but nothing is fertile ground. It's where new things take root, even if you can't see them growing yet. Mark Hansen, in his work on resilience, talks about finding the tiny good. When life feels unbearable, the smallest moments, warm sunlight on your face, a kind word from a stranger, become seeds of hope. These aren't answers, and they won't fix everything, but they're the beginning. And there are practical ways to engage the unknown. 1. Do the thing you've been avoiding. Sometimes the answer isn't in thinking, it's in action. You've probably been circling the same decisions over and over. Should I leave my job? Should I move? Should I end this relationship? You're not going to know for sure until you do it. Stop waiting for certainty. It's never coming. Take the leap and see what happens. 2. Step into the unknown. Physically. If you can't make big changes yet, start small. Go somewhere new. A park, a cafe, a road you've never travelled. Change your physical environment to disrupt the cycle of despair in your mind. Even a short walk in nature can shift your energy. 3. Find the smallest spark of curiosity. When everything feels meaningless, curiosity is your way out. What's one thing you've always wanted to try but told yourself wasn't worth it? It doesn't have to be life-changing. Take a class. Pick up a book on something weird that interests you. Curiosity is hope in disguise. 4. Let the universe do some of the work. This isn't about magical thinking. It's about trust. Let the universe show you something you haven't seen yet. Start looking for signs, not because they'll solve your problems, but because they'll remind you that you're part of something bigger. Sitting with the unknown won't fix everything overnight, but it does something important. It creates space. Space for the universe to work. Space for your own mind to rest. Space for something unexpected to find you. One day, you'll look back at this time and realize it wasn't the end. It was the pause before everything shifted. Hope isn't a feeling, it's an act. It's getting out of bed when you don't see the point. It's showing up for your life, even when it feels unbearable. It's letting the unknown hold you when you can't hold yourself. You've thought it all through, and you're still here. That's not failure, that's resilience. The fact that you're listening to this means there's something inside you, no matter how faint, that wants to keep going. The unknown isn't here to destroy you. It's here to show you the parts of yourself you've never met. Step into it. Trust it. Let it transform you. Because the void isn't empty. It's full of possibility. Chapter 6. The courage to trust life. Again, let's be real. Trusting life again feels like asking to get hurt all over. After everything that's fallen apart, after every betrayal, every failed plan, every moment of pain that left you gasping for air, how do you open yourself back up? How do you hand the universe the reins after it's already driven you off a cliff? Here's the answer you're not going to like. You don't trust life because it's earned it. You trust life because you've decided you're strong enough to handle what comes next. Trusting life isn't just about faith, it's about vulnerability. It's admitting that you don't have control over the outcomes, and that scares the hell out of us. It feels easier to close off, to grip tighter, to protect ourselves from ever being blindsided again. But closing off doesn't stop the pain. It just numbs you to everything, including joy, connection, and the surprises that make life worth living. This is why Stoics like Marcus Aurelius focused on preparing for the unexpected rather than fearing it. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Trust isn't about blind faith in life. It's about trusting your ability to adapt to whatever life throws your way. When you refuse to trust life, you turn inward. You shrink. You protect yourself from pain. Yes, but you also shield yourself from possibility. Relationships become superficial. Opportunities are left unexplored. Your world becomes small. Buddhism describes this as the closed fist of grasping. When you cling too tightly to safety, you lose the ability to open your hand and receive what life is trying to give you. Trust is the antidote. It's the open hand, ready to hold both joy and sorrow without fear. Let's start where you are. Trust isn't something you switch on like a light. It's something you rebuild piece by piece, moment by moment. 1. Hentisoi. Trust your own resilience. Life might not have earned your trust, but you have. Think about the things you've already survived. The times you thought you couldn't go on, but you did. Trust isn't about knowing everything will work out. It's about knowing you can handle it when it doesn't. 2. Practice. Trust in small ways. Start with low-stakes situations. Trust that a friend will call you back. Trust that the traffic light will eventually turn green. These small acts of trust retrain your nervous system to stop bracing for disaster. 3. Relearn the art of receiving. When someone offers help, take it. When an opportunity arises, consider it. Trust grows when you let life give to you, instead of pushing it all away. The Tao Te Ching says, "The sage does not hoard. The more he gives to others, the more he has for his own." 4. Lean on the universe. Trust isn't just about other people, it's about the energy of life itself. Start small. Ask the universe for guidance. Look for synchronicities, not because they're magic, but because they remind you that life moves in rhythms beyond what you can see. When you trust life, it doesn't mean you won't feel fear. Fear is inevitable, but trust gives you the courage to move forward anyway. It's the feeling of standing in the storm and knowing you'll find shelter, even if you can't see it yet. Trust feels like breathing deeply again after holding your breath for too long. It's the lightness that comes when you stop gripping so tightly and let yourself float. It's not perfect, it's not always pretty, but it's real. Rebuilding trust is an act of rebellion against despair. It's choosing to believe that life, messy and unpredictable as it is, still has something beautiful to offer you. As Viktor Frankl wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Trust isn't about changing life, it's about changing the way you meet it. Life will hurt you, it will disappoint you, but it will also surprise you, nourish you, and fill you with a kind of joy you can't plan for. Trust is the bridge that lets you move toward that joy, even when the path feels unclear. You don't need to trust perfectly, you just need to trust enough to take the next step. That's all life asks of you. That's all it's ever asked. Conclusion: this is not the end. You've been through hell. You've questioned everything. Your choices, your worth, your purpose, your very existence. You've stood at the edge of the abyss, staring into the unknown, wondering if there's any reason to keep going. And yet, here you are, still standing, still breathing, still here. That's no small thing. In fact, it's everything. Because being here, listening to this, sitting in this moment, choosing to hold on just a little longer, is proof that your story isn't over. And more than that, it's proof that you're stronger than you've ever given yourself credit for. Letting go isn't easy. It doesn't happen in one big cinematic moment. It's a series of choices made over and over again. It's deciding every day to release the need to control, to walk away from what's hurting you, to sit with your pain instead of running from it, to trust the unknown, and to open yourself to life again. But here's the thing about letting go. It doesn't leave you empty. It makes space. Space for new people, new experiences, and new possibilities. Space for your soul to breathe and for the universe to step in and guide you toward what's meant for you. It's in that space, the space you create when you let go, that life starts to flow again. The truth is, I don't know what comes next for you. I don't know if it means moving to a new city, leaving a toxic relationship, or finally pursuing the dream you've buried for years. I don't know if it means finding a new community or learning to stand alone for the first time. But I do know this: the universe moves in ways we can't predict. And the life waiting for you, the life you're meant to live, might not look anything like the life you've been holding on to. The Taoists teach that the way forward is rarely straight. The path twists, turns, and doubles back on itself. But it always moves toward harmony. When you let go, when you stop trying to force your way forward, you align yourself with that harmony. You step into the flow of life, and life carries you where you need to go. So here's my invitation to you. Let go. Not because it's easy, and not because it will fix everything right away, but because the life you've been clinging to is too small for the person you're becoming. Let go of the need to control. Let go of the shame and the guilt and the what-ifs. Let go of the life that no longer fits, and trust that something bigger, wilder, and more beautiful is waiting for you. It won't be perfect. You'll stumble. You'll doubt. You'll wonder if it was worth it. But with every step, you'll feel your soul waking up. You'll start to hear the quiet rhythm of the universe, calling you forward. And one day, you'll look back at this moment, the moment when you thought it was all over, and you'll see it for what it truly was, a beginning. Your story isn't over. It's just starting to get good. So take a deep breath, release what no longer serves you, and step into the unknown. The universe is waiting for you, and it always has been.